Hey, for the Module 3 video assignment, I'm going to be describing the different phases of the cardiac cycle and their relationship to the pressure-volume loop. So the cardiac cycle describes one complete heartbeat, including ventricular filling, contraction, ejection, and relaxation. The pressure-volume loop is a graphical way to visualize these events in the left ventricle by graphing pressure versus volume. So the phase 1 is ventricular filling, and what is happening here is the left ventricle is relaxed, the mitral valve is opened, and the aortic valve is closed, and blood is flowing through the mitral valve from the left atrium to the left ventricle. So if we look at the loop, we have this bottom horizontal line from A to B. That would be ventricular filling. So what is happening here is, like we said, volume, as you can see, is increasing, and then the pressure only rises just a little bit. And this B point, that would be our end diastolic volume. So after the ventricle fills, that's the volume that we have after relaxation, so end diastolic volume. So at the end of this phase, the mitral valve will close, and we have our preload, which is end diastolic volume. So the next phase is isovolumetric contraction, and during this, the ventricle begins to contract, but both the valves are still closed, so it's just building up pressure. On the loop, you can see from B to C, there is no change in the volume, and then it's rapidly increasing in pressure. So the pressure is going to increase until the left ventricle pressure is greater than the aortic pressure. And when this happens, the aortic valve will open, and we will have ventricular ejection, which is also called systole, the contraction. So what happens here is the left ventricle ejects blood into the aorta. Like I said, the aortic valve is open, the mitral valve is closed. And if we look at the loop, this will be from C to D. So you see here, volume will decrease, go back this way, and then pressure slightly increases and then drops down. So at the end of this phase, the aortic valve will close, and we get our leftmost point, which is our end systolic volume. So that's the volume left in the left ventricle after contraction. So then our fourth phase is isovolumetric relaxation. So during this, the ventricle will relax, both valves are closed, and the pressure will drop. So the volume is staying the same, but since the muscles are relaxing, the pressure decreases. So if we look at the loop, we have from D to A. So the pressure is drastically falling while the volume stays consistent. And it will fall until the left ventricle pressure is less than the left atrium pressure. So at the end of this phase, the mitral valve will open and the cycle will just repeat. So stroke volume, we can get that by looking at this graph. So stroke volume is your end diastolic volume, so your max volume after relaxation minus your volume after contraction, and that will give you your stroke volume, how much blood was pumped out of the heart. This helps us to understand preload, afterload, and contractility and how they affect the cardiac function. So basically, preload will increase stroke volume by making EDV greater. Afterload will increase the height and make it narrower, which decreases stroke volume. And then contractility is when ESV, so increased contractility, means that your systolic volume gets less and increases stroke volume.